Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar for the Interdisciplinary Research Leaders Program. My name is Mandy LaBrush, Associate Director of Operations for the IRL program and your moderator for today. This webinar provides an opportunity to learn about the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation's Culture of Health Vision and the Leadership Development Programs, to understand the Interdisciplinary Research Leaders Program and the current funding opportunity, to understand the application process for funding, and to ask questions. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping notes to share about this webinar. Please submit any questions that you have through the Q&A feature. This webinar will be recorded and available on the IRL program recruitment website next week. If your question does not get answered during this webinar, please email your question to researchleaders@umn.edu and we will respond via email. Our presenters today are Nancy Fishman, Senior Program Officer with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Michael Oakes, Director of the Interdisciplinary Research Leaders or IRL program, Adriana Barriotes, Co-Director of IRL, and Sarah Gaulis and Shalini Kulasingham, who both serve as Associate Directors of the IRL program. Michael, Adriana, Sarah, and Shalini are on faculty here at the University of Minnesota School of Public Health, which is where the IRL program is based. We've also invited one of our current IRL teams to speak about their experience in the IRL program. Ben, Femina, and Nick are all on the line and will share about their experience in IRL a bit later in this webinar. I will now turn it over to Nancy Fishman from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, who will provide an overview of the driving vision for this work, creating a culture of health in our country. Go ahead, Nancy.
Thanks, Mandy. Welcome all. I'm so glad that I'm able to talk with you today. I wanted to start by saying a little bit about what a culture of health is to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. The program we will be discussing today and all the work at the Foundation works towards this national movement that we call a culture of health, which is to create a society where everyone has a fair and just opportunity to live the healthiest life possible. We want people to embrace a more integrated, comprehensive approach to health, encompassing healthcare, yes, but the many other critical social factors that impact people's health, including early childhood development, family health, housing, the built environment, and many more. We understand that this requires an unprecedented collaboration with everybody playing a role. We recognize that this is an audacious goal, and it will require us and everyone to tackle the root causes of health disparities, such as racism and poverty. Next. So who is a leader for this audacious goal? We see all of the leaders that we support at the Foundation as those that envision and declare a future in which everyone has a fair and just opportunity for health and well-being, takes action to advance equity, diversity, and inclusion, and creates space for others to come together within and across organizations, sectors, communities, and networks to continue the future. Who are we looking for in this program? It may be you, if you embrace the vision of a culture of health and are willing to put advancing health equity at the center of your work, are willing to or have proven experience working and thinking collaboratively across sectors and across disciplines, embody insight, courage, and a commitment to lifelong growth and development, including learning and collaboration with participants and other alumni, and exhibit leadership capabilities or leadership potential, and have or want to develop strong critical and system thinking skills. And importantly, want to have an impact and take your leadership and influence to the next level. Next. So leadership at the Foundation falls into two buckets. We have four programs that I'm going to discuss in a moment briefly that we find fall under our develop leadership goal, where we're strengthening existing capacities for people who are committed to transforming systems, practices, and policies. And then we want to make sure we're connecting leaders, so not just this program, but across all of our programs, and to form a network who can collectively work towards the vision of a culture of health. Next, please. I'm not going to go into detail, but we wanted to just highlight that there are 4 leadership programs that were developed in 2016 that complement a couple other of our programs. And we're only going to talk about one of them today, the Interdisciplinary Research Leaders, but we do have others, and you can go to the rwjf.org's Change Leaders. The link is at the bottom there. But let me just mention briefly of clinical scholars, and as for health professionals who come in teams to address the complex local health challenges that they identify and work on during the program. The health policy research scholars who are individual PhD students who want to add a lens of health equity and health policy to their studies. And culture of health leaders, where we bring leaders from all fields, and I mean all fields, to tackle root causes of health disparities. So again, the address below if you want to see any of the other programs. And I'm going to now turn this over to Michael, and we're going to talk specifically about IRL. Michael?
Thanks so much, Nancy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really pleased to share information about this National Leadership Development Program called Interdisciplinary Research Leaders. We call it IRL for short. It's a tremendous opportunity for teams of researchers and community leaders to come together to create a healthier, more equitable set of communities. Look, across the country, there are researchers in health in many fields that influence health, and we're exploring new opportunities to redefine community systems and policies. And community leaders, of course, are pursuing new approaches in education, faith, not-for-profit, government, and other sectors, all driving for better lives. The IRL program brings together these researchers and community leaders. We equip them with advanced leadership skills, including research skills, and focus on health and health equity. We're trying to break down silos and address health disparities and fundamentally build healthier communities. We need to build bridges between the myriad of factors that have enormous influence on people's health. As you probably know, education, neighborhood context, transportation, income, faith, so on, and transform our culture at every level to putting health and health equity at the core. The IRL program is a groundbreaking, I dare say groundbreaking program to support teams of researchers. We want you to do catalytic, collaborative, and impactful research. We want to connect communities and researchers. I can't emphasize this enough. It's this connection that's at the core of what we do. Therefore, collaboration is essential. We want to develop leadership skills in you to enhance your impact. And of course, always attract and cultivate new diverse leaders from all sectors across the land. The IRL program is, of course, based here at the University of Minnesota, but we have amazing partners all over, one of which is actually here in town, Isaiah, a faith-based organization, and Academy Health, some of you may know, an amazing organization based in DC. It's together with these partners and many others that we're trying to offer this program so that our fellows, we call them fellows, can have outstanding experiences and move on and have a real impact on the culture of health. So what happens here? Well, it's a 3-year fellowship program for teams of individual. As you probably know, you apply to us in teams of 3. I'll say more about this in a minute. We offer a curriculum and all kinds of experiences to equip you, the applicants, with advanced leadership skills and a clear focus on action for health equity. We want to create leaders in research. Importantly, this is both researchers, what we might say professional researchers, and community leaders or their community partners. Let me be clear. We want the community partner to also become a research leader, though she or he may not become a researcher themselves. They lead research by understanding it, compelling it, rejecting it, interpreting it, and hopefully utilizing it. In this way, the IRL is both, I emphasize both, a leadership development and a research program. It's not a normal research grant, but something far more than that. What are the main program elements? Teamwork. This is really important. Your team that you apply with works together. They stay together for 3 years. You stay together for 3 years, you're stuck with each other. We want you to work as a team, to grow, to learn, to become leaders, to collaborate. And we want teamwork across the cohort that you apply in and across other cohorts in the program, if not other groups in the foundation in a larger sense. We offer extensive, and I say really impressive, leadership development and training, an amazing curriculum and research methods, policy and dissemination techniques. Yes, dissemination is really important. It's not just writing a research paper for an academic journal, but getting information out for action. Interdisciplinary collaboration can't be overemphasized. We mean true interdisciplinary collaboration. We are very interested, particularly this year, in novel applicant teams. Not just say English literature and classical English, who would say they're interdisciplinary, but of course are the chemist, they are not. So think hard about your interdisciplinary perspectives. I'll say more about this in a minute. We are focused on community engaged, action-oriented research. Community engaged is an important phrase. It means lots of things, but the idea is to be connected and accountable to and working for communities of interest. Not just for academic interesting purposes, but for change. That's the action part of this. So this bullet really matters. As I'll speak about in a minute, we have cohort-specific research topic areas. We want collaboration, as I mentioned, with all the other 4 programs, our sister programs, 3 of them, as well as RWJF more broadly, and of course now a growing alumni network. What do you got to do? Well, we expect about 8 hours per week on your IRL activities. I am serious about this. It's about 8 hours per week. We have webinars approximately every Friday afternoon. It's not actually every Friday, but I'll just say for the point here, Friday afternoons, expect a webinar. We have online discussions. We have web-based mini courses. And we have, of course, within and between team program collaboration and this thing we call the research project, which I'll come back to in a moment. 2 to 3 in-person meetings or events each year. So you travel, yep. So in this program, you don't travel to, say, the University of Minnesota and spend 3 years here, though we'd love to have you. Instead, you stay where you are, and we just go to various places, Washington, D.C. or whatever, 2 to 3 times per year. You join as a cohort. People on this phone, if you apply and are accepted, you'll be in cohort 5, our 5th cohort, and you'll be focused, as I'll talk about in a minute. Each cohort, we expect to enroll 15 teams. So in a few months, we'll try to enroll 15 teams of 3 persons each, or obviously 45 persons. Who are these people? Teams of 2 mid-career researchers and 1 community partner or community leader. As I mentioned, there's no relocation. This is mostly an internet or web-based program. You stay where you are, and we do things, we connect through online platforms, except obviously for the 2 to 3 meetings per year. What do we offer? Well, each team member's organization gets $25,000 per year for fellowship support. This is to cover the approximate 8 hours of time that you'll spend with us. This money goes to your organization. We don't want it to go to you personally, so it goes to your school or your community organization, whatever it might be, to support your time during the normal work week for participation in the IRL. Separately, and in addition, your whole team receives a one-time grant for the whole time of approximately $125,000. That is for your team's project. So each person gets $25,000 per year for their time. Each team gets a one-time grant of $125,000 for your project. Yes, there'll be travel expenses and so forth. We pay that separately. That does not come out of either of those two pots of money. Though, if you want to spend some of your research money on research-related travel, that's separate, and that's, of course, fine. We have access to amazing mentors around the country, professional development activities, and so forth. And so that is also paid for us by headquarters. In addition, if your team writes an academic paper and there might be a page charge, we pay for that out of central here. So again, just to be clear, $25,000 per person per year for your 8 hours and a one-time grant of $125 plus extras. There's always questions I can see coming through about who or what is a mid-career researcher. That's very normal and natural. To be honest, it's difficult to define. Mid-career researcher is not technically linked to any tenure process, anything like that. It's more about time in the field and experience. So what'll happen is you want to make the case to us in your application or in an early email if you want to check whether you would be deemed mid-career. If you're on the margin and not sure, I really encourage you to send us an email and we'll make a determination. Okay, who is a mid-career researcher? Someone with experience doing excellent research. You have some experience. This is approximately, or could be, someone about 5 years post-PhD and not retiring anytime soon. So of course, that's a big time gap, depends on the person and their life course. Graduate students, postgraduate students, and trainees, including people on K awards, are not eligible. All researchers must be mid-career. You can't average, which is to say you can't have a newer person and a more senior person and say on average we're mid-career. Everybody has to be a mid-career researcher. How about the community partner? They are also difficult to define. Effectively, you want to tell us who you are and why you think you're eligible with respect to mid-career. The guidelines for the community partners mid-career are frankly even looser than the research side. But this is someone who's been working with and in communities for some period of time, is not going to retire anytime soon. They have experience and they're going to be doing it for a while. If you think about it, we're investing a lot in you as a leader. We want to have some return on investment for all the great things you'll do once you finish. The community partners can come from all kinds of organizational settings. They might work for a local not-for-profit. They might work for a local government. They might be doing something at the federal level, but they are connected with and leading a community. They're deeply engaged in some way. That's who the community partner is. This figure, we hope, simplifies your time in the IRL program. You can see there's sort of 3 rows, a purplish, or I guess it's more of a red, a purple, and then a blue. And it goes from the first 6 months until you're an alumni. If you start with the more reddish area, you can see in your first 6 months after you're accepted, you'll work on revising your initial research proposal. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then the next 2 years, give or take, you'll work on doing that research. And the final 6 months in the program, you'll work on translation of that research. The purple area indicates that we want you to think about the result, the utility of your research with respect to action for change from moment one. This isn't a program where you do some things and then say, oh, what can you do with that? Instead, we think about what can you do with it from moment one. And of course, in the blue line, I suppose, we offer research and leadership training and support, all kinds of mentoring, connections, and so forth from moment one. When you finish with us, you become alumni and then give back and do great things in the world, which is, of course, what we all hope for. How about eligibility for being selected? Of course, please study, pay attention to the call for applications. It's all written down there. Study that stuff. If you have any questions, send us an email. So, to be simple, 3 individuals apply as a team, not 4, not 2, 3. There are 2 researchers and 1 community partner. Now again, the researchers need not be based at a university. There are plenty of people doing amazing research outside of universities. The point is, researchers are what you do, not necessarily where you sit. The community partner, again, as I mentioned, can be in all kinds of organizations. For your team, one of the places where you work will become the sponsored applicant organization. So there are 3 people, presumably from different places, but one of them will one of those organizations will be the sponsor application, which is to say that's where the money for the stipends and the grants go. In this IRL program, it's fully collaborative. There is no one principal investigator or PI, as some of you might see with respect to an NIH grant or something. Instead, we're all PIs. We're all leaders. So there's no PI. It's full collaboration. There's, of course, some other technical rules. Each team member must be a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or someone granted DACA status. If you have questions on your status, please email us. We're happy to give you an early heads up. Okay, who gets selected? What works? First, simply be eligible. Have 3 people, 2 researchers, 1 community leader. Focus on the CFA. With respect to the themes, which I'll talk about in a minute, I'll come back to this, make sure you address one of the 2 themes. Okay, more broadly. We were looking for people with the capacity and desire to become a leader in advancing population health and health equity. If you have an interest in leading in your group, in the world, we're interested in hearing from you. We want people with a compelling vision for collaboration. This is teamwork. How do you work together? We want researchers who have an excellent track record. You need not have won an NIH award, but whether you did or not doesn't matter. What we want is for people doing excellent research, learning about the world, and in particular, interdisciplinary research and people from diverse backgrounds. The goal, again, is to do community-engaged, action-oriented research for change. The community partner should have investment and expertise in the proposed research. They need to have authentic relationships with the community of interest. The idea here is the community partner is a leader, her or himself. And again, we want them to be research leaders, though not necessarily professional researchers. The research proposal should have a strong potential to inform policy or action. The scientific credibility of the research proposal really matters. You need not have it all worked out. As I mentioned, in your first 6 months, we'll help you with that. But the core idea should be a really quality product. Importantly, we really appreciate that the research project is based on a budget of $125,000, and it might even be less if your university or whatever takes a little skim off the top. We know what can be done with that amount of money. We don't expect you to solve everything everywhere. Realize that we know there are constraints. So in some sense, be clear, be sharp, and be contained with the normal budget constraints. We want you to have demonstrated expertise in your research area or the community of concern. Have some skills to bring to the table. That makes a successful application. Just so you know, our selection process is pretty straightforward. We have a selection committee made up of our leadership here, as well as members of our National Advisory Committee and some staff. Semifinalists, well, I should say what happens is your applications come in, we screen them for eligibility. If you don't meet the criteria, you are ineligible. So if you're wondering about your eligibility, send us a note. It'll save you some time. We don't want you to waste your time. Okay, so if eligible, we screen them, we review them, in some sense we grade and rank them. The semifinalists, the number of teams that sort of make it through the first cut, maybe 30 to 40 teams, will be invited for online interviews, a Zoom interview, if you will. That lasts 20 to 30 minutes. We have a team here that'll interview your team where you are, and we'll talk about what you want to do and your capacity and interest in leadership. Next, we'll have some future or further discussions about teams and rank them, and then make some decisions with the folks here in our NAC and make recommendations ultimately to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, who makes the ultimate funding or selection decisions. It's probably important to note we make our ultimate decisions in a very holistic way. Teams that are interdisciplinary, teams that are creative, teams that are doing rock solid science, teams that are from certain geographic areas, teams with interesting and unique and important backgrounds. We really want to hear from you. That's how we make our decisions. So now I get to pass the baton, if you will, to my partner, Andriana, co-director of the IRL program.
Thank you, Michael. So my job is to talk about the IRL opportunity for community leaders. And as Michael mentioned, we use a fairly broad definition of community partner. So it could include nonprofit organizations having a 501c3 status. It could be public entities and agencies. It could be private entities. It's a very broad swath, but be thinking about the role that community partners play as capacity working within communities, be they geographic or groups of people. So I believe that there is both a high desire on the part of community partners and a strong need for growing research partnerships and the skills in our various fields to be able to understand and convey the impact of the work that you're doing. Far too often, especially for community-based organizations, research and evaluation is funded as a special initiative or with soft philanthropic resources, which makes it much more episodic. Building relationships with researchers need to be strong and consistent, and for some communities, this might be the case, but in others, they may be out of reach or research-driven outside of the community. The social determinants of health framework and the building of the broader culture of health that Nancy spoke to earlier has really strengthened and created new partnerships with healthcare and public health for a broad range of community-based organizations across many different fields. And this program really elevates ways in which we're making more meaning around that work in the field. But because this is also, IRL is a leadership development program, we believe this is a great opportunity to further develop relationships and skills on the part of community partners to bring a lot as equal partners to the team. So here are some examples of community partners currently in Cohort 3 of the IRL program. Alima Lastimosa, our community coordinator and director of operations at Wamanalo Learning Center in Hawaii. Misha Wynn, who's the founder and executive director of Project Momentum. Antonio Tovar Aguilar, who's an organizer for the Farm Worker Association of Florida. Tim Fisher, who's an OB/GYN doctor and residency program director at Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical. Kelly Caseman, who's the executive director and founding member of Think Kids. And Elvina Maris, who's a clinical psychologist at the Colville Confederated Tribes. So we'll be talking a little bit more about the themes, but here are a couple of examples of what a community partner might be for our Cohort 5 themes. So in the theme of community environment and health, it might be a urban landscape planner who's or a forest researcher, health disparities expert, an anthropologist, environmental health researcher, weatherization product distributor, some combination of community organizations that might be working with researchers from a variety of fields, both scientific and health related. In the second theme, families and child health, could be a sociologist, a health communication researcher, a director of a nonprofit that's traditionally focused on maternal and child health, or faith leader, psychologist, criminal justice researcher. Again, these are examples to be illustrative, but not exclusive for our themes. So now I'd like to turn it over to one of our current teams who will talk a little bit about their research project and participation in the program. We have Ben Adochi, Assistant Director of Probation and Parole Treatment Services at the Arkansas Community Correction Facility. Femina Varghese, Associate Professor and Director of Training at the Counseling Psychology Program at the University of Central Arkansas. And Nick Zoller, Associate Professor at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences, Faye Boozman College of Public Health. So I'll turn it over to Team Arkansas. Hopefully.
Thank you very much. So, just to highlight a little bit about some of what's already been said, this really is a very unique program. And a few of the things that we were asked to speak about, one is, what attracted us to the program? Why did we wind up applying? And from my perspective, I had never seen a program like this. And so it was really a really nice opportunity to work with community colleagues, also colleagues from other institutions apart from my own, and really do a team-based project. So these are the kinds of things that often are extremely difficult to get support and funding in traditional venues. So it was really an opportunity for us to kind of pull together a team of folks, and the three of us building on our relationship with each other and being able to do something that we really loved. So,
This is Ben Udochi. I'm with Arkansas Community Correction, and I'm the community partner on this, on this team. I was invited to be a member of this team by Nick Zella, and when he invited me initially, I wasn't familiar with the program. I started reading up on the program, and I went to the website, and I saw all the wonderful things and all the connections that are possible, and that's what attracted me to, agree to be the community member. And since we've been working together, it's been a great experience. I really enjoy all the in-person conferences that we go to. At the end of the 3-day period, sometimes it can be, tiring, overwhelming, but the wealth of knowledge, that, I get, from those conferences are wonderful. And in partnering with Nick and, Femina, I didn't know Femina before, we got together on this project. I knew Nick from, meetings and committees. And before this project, when I referenced him, it was Dr. Zeller. But after working together on this program, we got closer. So there's a level of friendship, that we have developed, the three of us. And today I referenced him as Nick. He calls me Ben, So it's a wonderful program to be part of, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Yeah, this is Femina, and I'm also a researcher. When the call came out, I thought that it fit some of my interests in justice-involved persons. Then I looked through the website, and I really loved the philosophy and really the diversity of the program, the types of people they picked for it. I just found it very appealing that that it not only would provide funding to do the kind of research I was interested in, but it would allow me to connect with other people who are doing really important work. So another question we had was the usefulness of applying as a team of 2 researchers and 1 community partner. Most of my research is usually just with researchers, and then we work with the community. But I have found that working with community partner, working with Ben, has made it so much more easier because, if we have difficulty, we work with a parole office in a rural area. And so I don't have to drive the 2.5 hours there. Ben can connect with them a lot easier because you already work with the organization. So it makes it so much easier to have that connection. So the project, I think, goes much smoother with a community partner. So far, I've really loved my experience. I think one of my favorite parts is the in-person meetings. They're really well thought out. The sessions are really diverse. Some are really skill-based, and others are for networking. I too have learned a lot. And so I've also enjoyed working on our research project. We're still working on it. We're still collecting our data. But you know, like I said, the finances provide us the opportunity to do important work, which is for us, our research project is studying telehealth with parolees in a rural area.
And to add to Femina's statement on the benefits of working together, I have really learned a lot about the inner workings, you know, of our program in West Memphis. Since we started this program there's a lot of things that have come up that I wouldn't, you know, have been aware of that came out through this research. And to me, that has also been very helpful in making some changes in how we do things in-house.
Yeah, and the final, just to wrap up, because we were only given a brief amount of time and we could talk forever. But, you know, I think that for us, really, this is a new spin on this idea of team science. And, you know, really, in my mind, this is really how you can accomplish, you know, a lot more, just having, not just working in community, working for community, but working really in partnership. And that's really been a great feature of this program. And it allows you to really be bold in your thinking and take risks. And, you know, a lot of conventional programs don't allow that. But, you know, the great thing about this program is they kind of hold the space for you to take those risks, to get outside of your comfort zone. And that's something that I personally have really appreciated.
Thank you, Ben and Femina and Nick, for giving us just a brief idea of your experience. But we really just want to reinforce that community partners are integral to each and every team, and the ability to kind of help guide, design, explore research projects is a fundamental component to the work. And so it's a critical piece. So thank you again. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, who's going to talk a little bit about the training aspects.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So actually, I want to return to this figure, which you've already seen, that illustrates the distinct components of the program experience. So as you already heard from Michael, this program is a blend of research and leadership development and training. And so I just want to emphasize again, this is not your standard grant program. We will not give you money and leave you alone for 3 years. So we will be in touch with you a lot. So there's a lot of program activities that I'm going to speak to on the coming slides. So as you know, you will, and you'll hear from Shalini next, that you'll plan and implement a research project. The research is really the centerpiece of the program experience, but we also like to think of it as the capstone that you will use to apply what you learn in the curriculum. You'll learn some skills, some capacities, some new ideas in the curriculum. You'll take risks, as you just heard from Nick, and then you'll apply those ideas to the research project that we're funding you to implement. So I also want to emphasize the alumni experience. So when fellows become alumni, we expect they'll be leaders at conducting action-oriented research, and will continue to cultivate and expand the networks they built during the program. I also want to add that some of the curriculum experience might not be specifically relevant to your research project at the time. Say perhaps we have a focus groups course and you don't intend to use focus group methodology in your current research project funded by IRL, but perhaps that's something you want to do in the future in that alumni stage. So some of the curriculum components are designed to give you skills, give you a container to explore new ideas in research and policy and leadership, and in translating that work that you will take with you into your alumni experience. So the curriculum is designed around our key goal, which is in producing leaders in conducting innovative, rigorous, team-based research that can be used to stimulate action and policy settings to build a culture of health in the United States. And following that big, big goal, the curriculum is designed around 4 interconnected domains. The first that you can see in blue in the upper left is collaboration and community engagement. The curriculum goal here is to facilitate your effective ethical research community partnerships across diverse disciplines and sectors. In the other blue, the dark blue, the curriculum domain is community change leadership. We'll provide you with an understanding of the issues facing your community and specifically how you can build and lead movements to create change to promote health equity, including deep knowledge and application of equity, diversity, and inclusion concepts in your work. On the bottom left, policy and communication is another important curriculum domain. We hope that through a solid understanding of the policymaking process and the relevant stakeholders in change making, you'll be able to communicate your research outcomes to achieve the policy objectives you have and that you identify really at the start of the program. And finally, the foundation of the program is the research. And so the curriculum is designed to further and introduce, for some of you, the skills related to conducting credible and transparent research, applying scientifically sound methodologies to answer relevant community-oriented research questions. So how do we do this? You've already heard a little bit from Michael, but I want to emphasize that this is a hybrid model of curriculum delivery with both online and in-person elements. We have 8 what we hope are really fun and really intense in-person meetings over the 3 years. An annual IRL meeting here in Minnesota in the fall, an annual meeting that's for all 4 programs that you heard Nancy mention, and that location varies and the time of year varies, but it's typically in the spring. And then a Washington, D.C. meeting devoted to the policy and communication side of the curriculum that's every May, your first and third year, I should say. Then we have a set of flexible online courses throughout the 3 years that you can take whenever the time is available to you. We have a regular webinar series on Fridays at 1 p.m. Central to provide you with learning, application of some of the mini course material, as well as professional development. And then you have the opportunity for targeted mentoring, to choose mentors from around the country who you aspire to learn from, to provide you with other learning objectives that you desire through hands-on coaching, advice, and assistance. And again, I want to emphasize that the goal of the program is not learning for knowledge's sake, but to apply these skills into the research project planning, implementation, coordinating engagement of your team with one another and the community, and then translating the evidence that you generate to stakeholders and decision makers. I'm going to hand it over now to Shalini, who's going to talk a little bit more about the research projects.
Thank you, Sarah. So in terms of the research project, the IRL program has several components, but it's important to note that it's ultimately a research program. And so keeping that in mind, the research project is going to act as a centerpiece for your IRL experience. A key feature of this program is that we are looking to support research that has a high likelihood of driving action and change in communities. The IRL program is seeking to support rigorous, high-quality research. But one thing I want you to note is that it's also interested in supporting diverse types of research. So when we talk about diversity across IRL, we're talking in terms of study populations, scientific disciplines, and methodologies. So this means both qualitative and quantitative research using a variety of research designs, including, but not limited to, case studies, evaluation of interventions, experiments, financial, economic, or cost effectiveness analyses, health impact assessments, legal analyses, natural experiments, policy analyses, analyses of existing data sets. It can also be qualitative or ethnographic investigations, or other types of action-oriented designs. So again, a variety. We're not just looking for one specific type of research when we're talking about research here. When a prospective IRL team applies to the program, they will apply with a proposed research project. For the accepted teams, the first 6 months of the program will be dedicated to working with the IRL research team to refine and plan the specifics of the research project, culminating in a proposal to the program office that also lays out the specific resources needed to execute the project. The project will run for 2 years, after which the focus will shift towards communicating and translating the results to affect change. Michael, back to you.
All right, thank you, Shalene. So I hope you're getting the idea that this is a comprehensive leadership program focused on creating action-oriented, community-engaged research. 2 researchers, 1 community partner. Importantly, the community partner, we want to become a research leader, him or herself. They need not do research, but they should understand research, compel research, reject research, all those things. Let me now focus on the focus of the research as you apply for your cohort selection. In the IRL program, each cohort is focused on one of 2 themes. The idea here is to have the cohort have some stickiness together, to be connected by working on the same ideas, the same problems, but perhaps obviously with different perspectives. So what we want to create is a little mini culture where people can connect and grow and challenge each other, ultimately learn and affect change together. So that's why we have you focus on themes. Every cohort thus far, this is our 5th obviously, we have 2 theme areas, and this year's themes is what I'll talk about now. Before I get into that, a quick word on some things we are not interested in supporting. In general, we're not interested in supporting program, like social program implementation or development per se. We're interested in the evaluation of many programs, but development of a program in and of itself with no evaluation to say that it worked or not or how it worked is of less interest to us. Second, let me emphasize, this is not a traditional model of academic research where an academic researcher, principal investigator might conduct a study, publish a paper, and then be hands-off with what happens. That is exactly the opposite of what we're seeking to cultivate, grow, and change. We want deep engagement, collaboration, and really, in some sense, change the way research is done by at least those interested in such kind of research. When you apply to us, your research project, which is not everything, we're also interested in your leadership capacity, but your research project should focus on one of 2 of the theme areas. We appreciate that some projects might address both. That's awesome, but pick one. Pick one because we're interested in how you'll sort of be selected and evaluated with respect to other teams applying in some sense for the same slot. The themes are written clearly in the call for application. You're also welcome to email us with any particular questions. But let me try to get into what the themes are about right now. The first theme, though it doesn't matter what the order is focused on community environment and health. We are looking for leaders to conduct action-oriented research, community engagement for this theme. What do we mean by community environment? This is very important. We appreciate, I certainly appreciate, that the word environment has many terms or many understandings these days. We, this year, are talking about the environment in some sense, the old-fashioned sense, the traditional biophysical sense. Soil, other living things, pollution, solids, hazardous waste, water sanitation, lead poisoning, and so forth. So environment here means like EPA environment, old-fashioned environment. We say community environment because we want you to focus on local communities and not sort of global warming, not the whole social system across the planet or things like that. So we're interested in research on traditional environmental problems in a local community. Some people talk about this research as environmental equity or inequity or environmental justice. Wonderful, we agree. I don't use those terms particularly here because they can be loaded, but that's just fine. So this theme, if you're interested in doing work on traditional environmental stuff at a local level to improve community health in partnership with community leaders, that theme is for you. Thank you. Let me give you a couple of examples. These are written in the CFA just to wet your whistle on some potential projects that you might be interested in doing for the IRL. Let me emphasize, we do very much appreciate the budget constraint. You don't have to promise to solve all the problems. In fact, that'll probably work against you. So with that in mind, you might suggest an experimental trial comparing community measured emissions before and after, say, an auto body shop converts from solvent to waterborne paint products. These solvents, of course, are noxious. It'd be great to get rid of them. Who does it affect? How does it work? How can a community get this done? How do you organize to have this kind of change? Second, you might do a descriptive study that somehow scientifically ranks a community's environmental concerns and preferred remedies. Such research would really help local decision makers and action-oriented groups know what to prioritize. What should be done? How do we get it done? Obviously, a random sample survey of lead levels in drinking water from schools and libraries, perhaps stratified by measures of race, socioeconomic status, social power, and so forth. And then, again, lots of these in the CFA. You could do a qualitative research study with business owners trying to find out their interest in reducing pollution, perhaps analyzed by race, size of business, or whatever else. Let me be clear, the IRL is somewhat agnostic about the type of research, quantitative, qualitative, experimental, observational. We want quality research. So whether you're doing quantitative toxicology or some qualitative interview, that's great. We love it all. Let me come back to this question. What does the environment mean? This is the biophysical environment. We understand there are social dimensions, but we are talking clearly about pollution, hazardous waste, toxins, vector control, and so forth. So the broad sociological approach in and of itself would not be eligible for this theme. The second theme concerns families and child health. Here, we're interested in supporting and finding ways to enhance children and families and their health, obviously. In particular, we are interested in new work that supports the health of fathers and their children. So this is part of a family structure. We all appreciate, there's lots written about this in the CFA, that the kind of families or structures of families are changing and evolving. And so how do we do work to enhance the ability of such families to live healthy, vibrant lives? We are particularly interested in the fathers and children angle because there's so much needed, important, critical work regarding maternal or mother and child health. That's being done in amazing ways in many amazing places. And so we want to focus or nudge a little bit the whole area to focus a bit on fathers and their children. Does this mean we're only interested in fathers and children? No, it just means we're particularly interested in that. So what kind of work might be done here? You could do novel work on food policy, vaccination resistance, minimum wage floors, really important work on Indian urban health populations and childcare subsidies, all such things. You could focus on policies or social norms about toxic masculinity, about being fathers, about modern, diverse, and evolving families. Any work in this area could be of interest. The goal is really good quality research that has an action angle. The action might be for policy, it could be for social norms. The idea is to affect change to improve the health of families and their children. Now I get to turn it back over to Mandy. Have at it.
Thanks, Michael. Regarding how to apply for this funding opportunity, each team of 3 individuals will submit 1 application. Applications must be submitted through RWJF's online system, and applicants must follow the instructions and use the templates provided in the RWJF application system. As a reminder, program applications are due on March 11th, 2020. Each applicant organization must submit a complete application, including information about the organization and its selected team, including a proposed research project description and budget, team collaboration description, individual leadership and research influence and aspirations, biographical sketches of team members. Up to 15 teams will be accepted into Cohort 5 of the IRL program. And with the help of mentors, teams will spend the first approximately 4 months of their fellowship refining their research proposal, which will be reviewed and approved by the National Program Center here at IRL. Research funds will be released upon approval of the revised research proposal. Here is a screenshot of the application homepage in the RWJF online system. You will need to register in the online system and complete several questions. You will also download, complete, and submit the application templates for the various components in the call for applications, which I just described. Each team of 3 people will submit just 1 application. 1 person should initiate the application and then invite the other 2 team members to contribute to the same proposal by clicking on the blue invite button that is located midway down the left-hand side of the screen. It's highlighted here by the blue arrow. We strongly encourage all 3 team members to log in as soon as possible so everyone is aware of the application requirements. Here's a complete timeline, which is also included in the call for applications in more detail. Regarding the deadline, we would like to emphasize that in fairness to all applicants, RWJF's policy is not to accept any late submissions. And again, all applicants are strongly encouraged to log into my RWJF online system well in advance of the deadline to familiarize themselves with the application requirements. We will now take questions from participants. If you would like to ask a question, you can type it into the Q&A box on your screen. We will read questions out loud, but we will not identify name or organization of the person asking the question. And a reminder, if we don't get to all the questions today, you can always follow up with an email to researchleaders@umn.edu, and we will respond via email. While people are typing in questions, we can start with a few that we populated in advance. And the first one is for you, Andriana. What are the expectations of the community partner?
So the community partner is expected to have full participation in the collaboration in the program alongside the research partners. So that includes all of the learning and leadership development activities, as well as helping be engaged as you can in the research project. And several of folks have asked the question about what it means to be mid-career in the context of a community partner. And so I would say it's in kind of similar to the research partners, someone who has been working in the field in whatever your respective field has been, but maybe you could be beyond an entry position or, you know, completely right out of school, but have a little bit of experience all the way up to, again, not anticipating retirement from your organization or from the field anytime soon. So within that kind of 5 to 10 year period as well. But we definitely expect community partners to be involved in the 8-hour kind of expectation per week and with all of the activities. And of course, across the 3-year program. So we really hope that people will apply with the intention of being solid participants throughout that 3-year program experience.
Thanks, Andriana. This next question is for you, Michael. If I am a PhD student or completing a postdoc, am I eligible to apply as either the research partner or community partner?
PhD students or postdocs are not eligible, at least a traditional postdoc. If you are in a PhD program that's research focused, which most of them are, but there's always exceptions, then you're probably not a community partner. So students, postdocs, people on K awards are not eligible. And if you're a researcher, you'd have to make the case as to why you're a community partner and not a researcher.
Thank you, Michael. Next one is also for you, Michael. We get a lot of questions on, can you elaborate more on your definition of a mid-career researcher?
Right. This has been also hot in the Q&A text. It's a really great question. Again, a mid-career researcher is someone with some experience, 4 years, 5 years, give or take, someone who's not going to be retiring anytime soon. Sometimes we get questions of, hey, I'm an assistant professor, am I mid-career? You could be. Professors at different ranks are different ages and different stages in their careers. We all have our own journey of life. And so we want someone who has experience doing research and is not going to retire soon. If you have particular questions, because we do appreciate people's life course is varied, simply send us an email and we can help you out. All right, what's next? Should I answer some of these in the Q&A?
I think we should wrap up.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Is that for me? Okay, it is for me. All right, well, I'm going to close then. Thank you for taking part in today's webinar about the Interdisciplinary Research Leaders, or IRL program. We hope you'll consider applying to become part of our next group of leaders working to build a culture of health. We dare say it's an amazing experience where we all learn. We all learn from each other and explore research and leadership together. The engagement, the full participation, the full partnership of the community partner can't be emphasized enough. To me, that's one of the greatest strengths of the IRL program. We're getting researchers out of the ivory tower, and if I dare say, some community members into the ivory tower. It's this partnership where we hypothesize will have our greatest impact. On our website, you'll find all kinds of information about this. The call for application itself, I urge you to read it carefully. We spend a lot of time on it. You can also sign up for more emails from us on a normal listserv. You can follow us on Twitter at IR Leaders. And of course, the email and all that stuff is here on the slide. So thank you very much. On behalf of all of us here in Minnesota and the IRL team, the alumni, the current fellows, we're really honored of your interest. We hope to hear from you and have a wonderful day.